Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and last night live on stream, I actually had my season high win streak, 15 wins in a row in the Open Great League with a team that included Shadow Dialga. Now, Shadow Dialga by no means is a Pokemon that's worth the investment for the Open Great League, but with two very strong teammates in Shadow Malamar and Diggersby, we were able to go on a pretty fun run, and Shadow Dialga had some very nice one-shots with Draco Meteor. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and let's take a look at some highlights from this 15-game win streak. Hopping into the first match, picking up a pretty okay lead, Shadow Malamar into Gastrodon. Considering I have a Shadow Dialga in the back that would get melted by Mud Slaps, I'm very happy to catch this on the lead. I'm going to throw the foul play one turn before they get their Earth Power. Opponent is going to overfarm, and that allows me to get another foul play. Even if my opponent didn't CMP tie here, which they did, I was very okay conceding a free Mud Slap in exchange for either getting both shields or nearly knocking them out. They're going to go for a Body Slam and a Farm Down, but I'm very happy to have a 2-0 shield advantage, as that's hopefully where a Pokemon like Shadow Dialga can put in work. Earth Power is going to connect, there's a pivot into Mandibuzz, and this is actually a very tricky Pokemon. I could potentially send in the Shadow Dialga here, but I do not trust my ability to tank a Dark Pulse well. Shadow Dialga is extremely frail, so I'm going to stay in with the Diggersby and just slowly try and chip away and force some energy from my opponent. My opponent does actually end up throwing on alignment there. I'm very happy to take that move, and now I will throw the Fire Punch, and then it's time. I'm going to have to send in Shadow Dialga. Shadow Dialga is going to hit the field. Opponent is going to switch into Gastrodon. They make a move, but I have been counting. They don't have enough here. It's only a Body Slam. That still does so much health. And now in comes Clodsire. But Clodsire is not going to appreciate this. Shadow Dialga is going to get to the Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor, one-hit KO. Down goes Clodsire. In comes Mandibuzz. And Mandibuzz is going to be firing off an Aerial Ace. Mandibuzz, it doesn't look like they're going to get the farm down. They're forced to try and fire off moves here. This is going to be another Aerial Ace, and Dialga will get to the Iron Head. So things got quite scary in the end game, but a 2-0 shield Shadow Dialga on very low HP is able to clean up and take the win. We move to the next match, Shadow Malamar against Shadow Typhlosion. Now, we actually do have identical pacing in this matchup here, where we're both getting to our moves in 10 turns, but Typhlosion is going to win Charge Attack priority. So in this matchup, I have high incentive to try and catch out of it. So I'm going to throw 4, switch into the Diggersby, and not only do I catch a Thunder Punch, but I get a Sneak as well. This Sneak is very nice because it will force them to switch out, because if they stay in, they can't rebank the Thunder Punch, or I'm going to outpace and be able to fire off the Fire Punch. So instead, they're going to bring in Lapras, and I get some good luck going my way as I get the 30% chance at a Scorching Sands attack drop. Sparkling Aria is going to land. Opponent actually may not have realized that I got that Sneak when I caught, because they actually end up overfarming too much, and that lets me get another Scorching Sands. Now this should set up some pretty solid Shadow Dialga farm. We will get a couple Dragon Breaths, Psywave not going to be doing a ton of damage, and Shadow Dialga is going to need all the energy it can get, as it's going to be Shadow Jumpluff in the back. My opponent only throws 6 Fairy Winds here. I know this is only an Aerial Ace, but I'm a Shadow Dialga. I still have to end up shielding. If I no-shield that, then potentially the Fairy Winds plus the Incinerates will do too much. Iron Head is going to be shielded. I switch into Malamar, and I'm able to get the foul play. I need this to put them in one Psywave range, but it does not. In comes Typhlosion, but look at the Psywaves. Malamar farms down, Jumpluff farms me down, but they're at exactly 1 HP of health. The Dragon Breath goes through, and somehow we're able to escape with a win. Dream lead in the next match, Shadow Malamar into Shadow Annihilate. Opponent is going to save switch into Jumpluff, and unfortunately, I don't have a great response to a Jumpluff save swap. Instead, I am just going to farm up some energy here with the Malamar and then send in Diggersby. Diggersby more than happy to absorb an Acrobatics here. Acro does do quite a bit of damage. The important thing is I can't afford to give the Annihilate farm, so I'm actually going to go for an undercharge on this Fire Punch to let my opponent fire off another Acrobatics. This will get me very low, but we did the perfect undercharge, so I exit with basically 1 HP, but a charge attack loaded. This is the best case scenario. I get chip damage on the Annihilate. Now I send in Malamar, but in the back is a Azumarill, and unfortunately, this just doesn't seem like a game I can win. This team is very, very weak to Azumarill. It's part of why this team on paper should never work. Normally, I would run Tinkaton as the third, and Tinkaton does a great job at shutting down Azumarill. I make it to the Iron Head, but this is nowhere close to knocking out. My opponent is going to end up no-shielding and firing off a move. My only hope in this game is Psy-Waving down. I have to exit this Azu matchup with 100 energy, so that way I can threaten the Shadow Annihilate. Even though I'm well over 100, it doesn't matter. What matters is I need 100 energy for when Annihilate hits the field, and it hits the field now. Immediately, one Psy-Wave and the Foul Play come out from the Malamar, another one Psy-Wave, and another Foul Play. This is going to be grabbing my opponent's final shield. I need to make it to another Foul Play, and I do. But am I too low? Is the Azumarill in Psy-Wave downrange? Foul Play picks up the KO. In comes Azumarill. We get the Psy-Wave down, and the high-rank Malamar saves us in that endgame. Moving to the next match, Shadow Malamar into Claydol. Claydol staying in this matchup, so I'm very happy overfarming and firing off the Foul Play right before they make their Rock Tomb. Opponent is going to go for the Rock Tomb instantly here. They shielded, so I'm very happy to shield back because, again, even though they have way more fast move pressure than me, I do have a very big pacing advantage. So now I go for Foul Play number 2. Opponent is going to let that through. I'm farming up. I switch into Diggersby, and I get the catch of the Rock Tomb, and I sneak through a free quick attack as well. So Rock Tomb, I'm now going to be debuffed. They stay in, so I will fire off the Fire Punch to pick up the KO. At first, I was confused by the play to stay in, but the moment they send in Credilli, now it all makes sense. They knew they had a very good matchup, but they didn't want to switch lock that Credilli. Instead, they want an ability to pivot out. Scorching Sands does actually get an attack drop, so a bit of good luck does go my way, as that's only a 30% chance of occurring. They're going to fire off the debuffed Grass Knot that will do quite a bit of damage, and now I'm going to fire off another Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands is going to be no-shielded. There's the switch to the Malamar, and I will get to fire off Foul Play. Credilli is going to commit the shield. They throw instantly. They don't want any more Psy-Wave damage to land. But this sets up Shadow Dialga in the 1-0 shield, which is where it needs to be. So now, after waiting down my timer, because I am switch locked, I'm sending in the Shadow Dialga. Opponent is staying because they know they can make it to a Rock Tomb. And now, I'm going to be -1, and Rock Tomb does almost half my health. In the back is Morpeko, and Morpeko's not going to have a good day here. Morpeko just going straight Psychic Fangs because they know they can, but Shadow Dialga is going to get the Draco Meteor. This is massive overkill, but I do not care. Down goes Morpeko to a Draco Meteor, and we're able to take the win. We move to the next match, Shadow Malamar leading into Clodsire. Pretty happy to catch this on the lead as long as it's not on Dialga. I'm always going to be shielding no matter what they throw here. I'm expecting Sludge Bomb bait, but they actually full send the Earthquake. That is very, very nice, as now I should be able to overfarm more on the Malamar. So Foul Play is going to land. Opponent is going to safe switch a Superior. I get to bank so much energy, and in comes Shadow Dialga. Shadow Dialga is never really tanking anything, but it will be tanking these moves. Frenzy Plant is double resisted, but it is still going to be the better move to go for compared to Aerial Ace. They're going to fire off another Frenzy Plant. Come on, Dialga. Get this farm down, and we do barely get the farm down by the narrowest of margins. In comes the Clodsire, very close to the back-to-back Iron Heads, but I'm almost running out of health, so I will just fire off the Iron Head to pick up the KO. In the back is Primeape, and this right here is why the Clodsire Primeape core is dead. Because Malamar exists. You cannot be this weak to Psy-Wave. Malamar is just going to completely run away with this game. Diggersby didn't even need to be brought to the battle. They can go for Rage Fist. It won't even matter. I don't even have to superpower. The Shadow Psy-Waves do so much damage that I can just take the game with straight up resisted foul plays the entire way. So Foul Play is going to land. Down goes Primeape, and that's going to be a win. We see a terrible lead in the next match, Shadow Malamar into Morpeko. I need to try and catch out of this. I switch into the Diggersby as my opponent is going to fire off energy, and Diggersby does catch the electric type Aura Wheel. That is very, very nice. Opponent is farming up. They end up going for a Psychic Fangs here. This is a boosted Psychic Fangs. They did not build up to the Dark Aura Wheel. I was a bit confused by this play. I go for the Fire Punch bait, and they catch onto Corviknight, and I am so happy that I did end up going for a Fire Punch bait there, as obviously Fire Punch way more effective into the Corviknight than a resisted Scorching Sands. So now I get to fire off Fire Punch number 2, and there's Fire Punch number 3. Corviknight just getting completely overwhelmed here. Corviknight forced to give up a shield. Corviknight is going to look to farm up quite a bit of energy, and then look to pick up the knockout. Corviknight is going to go for the Sky Attack. Sky Attack will pick up the KO. In comes the Shadow Malamar. If I can Psywave down, I'd love to try and Psywave down here because Malamar energy can go very far. They're going to pivot into Jumpluff as their final Pokemon. And this is pretty okay because I have so much energy on the Malamar. It's the regular Jumpluff, which is a bit worse because the Shadow obviously gets shredded by these foul plays. But as the Malamar, I'm honestly pretty okay just sacrificing it here. They need to throw the Acrobatics to knock out here because they are not the Shadow. If they throw the Aerial Ace, it's not going to KO. They end up going for the Aerial Ace. Now I can force the final shield, send in the Shadow Dialga, and for Shadow Dialga, I'm just never going to be shielding the move here. It is going to be the Acrobatics. Look how much damage that does resisted. In comes Morpeko. Morpeko will make one final charge attack. I am going to be committing the shield as they go for the Psychic Fangs. Dialga is going to get the farm down here, and they still do have that Corviknight, but I'm very close to the Iron Head. They're going to send in the Corviknight. I need to not take any more sand attacks, so I fire off this Iron Head immediately. Down goes Corviknight. All they have left is just a few health remaining on the Jumpluff, and we're able to take the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Shadow Malamar into Claydol. Opponent safe switches into, I just saw Water type. I fired off the foul play. It ends up being a Blastoise and a Shadow Blastoise at that. Now this is actually going to work out very, very nicely for me because I'm just going to stay in here with the Shadow Malamar and brute force switch advantage. Because that way I can guarantee that I'm not going to have to worry about the Claydol being aligned onto the Dialga. Instead, it's going to be aligned onto the Diggersby, which is a very fine spot to be. They send back in the Claydol, and I'm at a shield disadvantage, but I can immediately get that shield back, and my opponent will be forced to throw. That's nice counting by my opponent. They do not let me get to another foul play, but Shadow Malamar just set me up so incredibly well there, and now they're already in a range where I can't quite knock out with the Scorching Sands, but this is Scorching Sands plus Fire Punch range. The Scorching Sands is going to land, they pivot into the Jumpluff, and now I get to send out the Shadow Dialga. I'm going to be no shield on the Shadow Dialga. Everything they throw is resisted here. It's the Acrobatics, and look at the damage. Dialga gets rocked. I barely make it to the last second Iron Head. Iron Head into the Jumpluff. He's actually no shielded, and that was a huge shock to me because I don't have a lot of energy available on this Diggersby. I think my opponent, their only win con in this match was they absolutely had to commit the shield and try and sweep with the Jumpluff. They saved it for the Claydol, but the Claydol is just much too low. Fire Punch is going to be shielded, and Claydol can make it to an Ice Beam, but an Ice Beam will not be enough to knock out. So I think my opponent, I still think I was in an okay spot there, but I think my opponent helped me out a bit by no shielding that Jumpluff, as the Claydol just didn't have enough health to win that game. Hopping into the next match, and we have a blast from the past, Shadow Malamar against Shadow Dragonair. Shadow Dragonair used to be an absolute terror in the Open Great League, but the nerf to Body Slam really made it a lot more difficult to use. And on top of that, new meta Pokemon like Tinkaton as well make it very difficult to be a dragon at the current moment. So here I'm going to be just firing off the foul play right away after I match shields, looking to pick up the knockout here or force the final shield. They're going to send in a Azumarill. This is a bad Pokemon for this team to see. I'm going to bank a move, send in Diggersby. Diggersby, I'm very okay just using it as a damage sponge to absorb hits from the Azumarill. And I'm hoping that the energy on Malamar can potentially be threatening into their final Pokemon. That's basically what I need to have happen to have a chance to win this game. Scorching Sands, no bailout debuff this time for me. That's a bit unfortunate. And they are going to be firing off Ice Beam. Ice Beam is going to land. I actually get damage registration error here. It's to a resisted Fire Punch, so it's not going to do much damage. Yeah, it doesn't really do basically anything to that Azumarill. And now I get to send in the Shadow Dialga. Even an Ice Beam will do way too much damage, so I will commit the shield. I need to try and farm down here. Come on, Shadow Dialga. I'm looking for the farm down. I can't get it, so I go for the CMP sack swap with the Shadow Malamar. Opponent is going to let that go. In the back, it's Credilli, and this is one of the only Pokemon that I could actually beat. Credilli going to be met with the superpower. They're going to shield, but Dialga has the Iron Head loaded, and we're going to be able to take this game. Iron Head absolutely nukes that Credilli. Credilli's going to return fire with the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb does big damage in return, but that's a move Shadow Dialga can actually survive. For the final match of the video, let's take a look at the game where the win streak ended. For this battle, as I mentioned at the start, I'm showing highlights of the win streak, so not every game is included, but at this point, I had won 15 games consecutively with this team, 3 straight 5-0 sets. Now the lead, not a great lead, but not an awful lead. My opponent did end up Aerial Ace baiting, and I decide to double shield in the early game. expecting that Malamar should have good play in the back. I'm going to fire off the foul play right before they're able to make their next aerial ace. One could argue that maybe I shouldn't have gone down 2 shields here, especially when Azumarill hits the field. So far, I've managed to successfully dance my way around Azumarills, but with a team that's triple weak, my time will eventually come. My opponent's going to stay in this matchup because it's obviously a very good matchup, and I really need a Scorching Sands debuff here. I need to debuff their attack, so that way I can make it to another Scorching Sands, but I don't get the debuff when I need it the most. Here, I actually throw a Fire Punch on the CMP tie. My opponent was over farming to the max here, and they were going to throw right before I made the Scorching Sands. So I'm just looking to get whatever possible damage that I can get. Here, I switch into the Shadow Malamar, and I am going to be firing off the foul play. Foul play into the Azumarill is going to land. Malamar is going to get the farm down. I exit with a ton of energy. In the back is Diggersby, and down 2 shields. I can't win this game because Diggersby will get to shield up here. Even a foul play bait getting shielded doesn't matter because I can't get a third move. The superpower is going to be shielded. And with how slow Shadow Dialga is, there's just no way for me to win. I am still going to go for the Soul Reed catch, and I get the Soul Reed catch as well. Unfortunately, it's not going to matter, but I did perfectly predict how much they would overfarm. I'm hoping to get the move, but it's just not going to happen. And Shadow Dialga will get destroyed by a Scorching Sands, and the win streak ends at 15. As I mentioned at the start, Shadow Dialga, it is a deeply flawed Pokemon in the Open Grade League, and it's not a Pokemon that I would recommend if you're looking to gain Elo. I do think the big positive from this team is the Shadow Malamar Diggersby core. This core is absolutely unreal. It was already a pretty solid core, but with how common Azumarill was back in the day before Tinkaton, it was a lot more difficult to use. But now with the Shadow Malamar being an upgrade, and with Azumarill usage declining, this core is incredibly strong, and the fact that it was able to put Shadow Dialga in a position to succeed 15 games in a row is honestly such a massive testament to how incredibly good this core is. If you're looking for a climbing version of this team, just switch out the steel type. Shadow Dialga, put it on the bench, and instead run Tinkaton. I've been running this team with Tinkaton as the third and had some great results. That's what I was initially running on stream, but I did end up at chat's request ending up building the Shadow Dialga. Unfortunately, mine only maxes out at 1447 combat power. If I try and power it up anymore, it goes to 1502. So it's probably one of the worst Shadow Dialgas out there. But for this being my longest win streak of the season, I am pretty happy. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide, genuinely, it's just absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.